Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Grand Bouffe, the Big Feast, with myself, Cole Smithey, and this week's special guest co-host, Ted Rall. As always, we are here to copiously consume international politics and culture through the prism of a single film and a different craft beer each week. Welcome, Ted.
Thank you, Cole.
How are you doing?
I'm quite excellent, actually. I'm not... it's for others to judge whether I am excellent, but I feel pretty good for an almost 55-year-old guy.
Yeah, we're in the same boat. We're almost the same age. You're a month younger than me.
That's right, and you're always lording that over me, too. It's always like, oh, yeah, like, you know, you're my age, you'll see.
Right. When I was a kid, I had 6 more marbles than you did when I was 6.
I think a lot of people have more marbles than I do.
So you have chosen Lethal Weapon for us to talk about this week. This is a movie that you and I both know very well. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing it when it came out.
Me too.
I think it came out in 87. Mm-hmm. It is very of that era.
Late Reagan era.
Yep. And it reflects it in many, many ways.
True.
And it was written by Shane Black, who has gone on to do things like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. And he's originally from Pittsburgh. He's only a couple years older than us. 61 he was born.
Oh, so he's a Gen Xer. And I would say he's a Gen Xer in style, too. So
he went on after this to write Lethal Weapon 2, Lethal Weapon 3, Last Action Hero.
I like Last Action Hero a lot.
Long Kiss Goodnight, which is also really great.
Mm-hmm.
I think of that movie especially as a neo-noir. This one is almost a neo-noir.
Lethal Weapon?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I had forgotten how dark it is.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you think Lethal Weapon, you just think, like, it's almost like the cop buddy movie. It's not certainly... I wanted to ask you what you think the first cop buddy movie is.
Yeah.
But it's certainly, I think, maybe the most successful one, or if you were meeting an alien from outer space and they wanted to know what a American cop buddy movie was like, you would probably point them first to this.
I think
it would
so.
be on your list of top 3 anyway, right? Anyone's. But I was, you know, I mean, I had forgotten. I mean, he's suicidal.
Yeah.
He's contemplating blowing his brains out. He tries to work up the nerve. He almost plays Russian roulette with himself.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of really interesting stuff about the way that the movie opens. We meet both of our protagonists nude, which is surprising.
Yeah.
Danny Glover's character is bathing, and his family comes in with a big birthday cake.
Right.
So he's, you know, it's soapy water, but still, you know.
There's a metaphor there.
Yeah.
And it's obviously about, you know, I can't not think about Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte in 48 Hours when I see this movie.
Absolutely.
I mean, because it's the, you know, although that's the opposite role in that the straight man is of the opposite gender in Lethal Weapon, right? I mean, the straight man is the black guy. But it's Danny Glover. But he's...
opposite gender?
No, I mean opposite race.
Oh, okay. You scared me.
No. I mean, maybe...
Did I miss...
I don't judge.
Did I miss something?
No, I didn't judge. Well, if you talked about the nudity, I don't know how closely you were paying attention there.
But well, it's... Okay, so about buddy movies, I always think of the Blues Brothers, even though, of course, they're not cops, but that's a great buddy movie. Freebie and the Bean, 1974.
Never saw it.
James Caan and Alan Arkin. But I think...
Are they cops?
Yeah. And 48 Hours, of course. You mentioned 48 Hours, right?
Uh-huh.
And I think
Midnight Run, maybe?
Yeah.
I think 48 Hours is 1984, if I'm not mistaken.
82.
Uh-huh, okay. So 48 Hours predates this. It improves... I think it improves upon the formula. I mean, although it's hard to beat
this
Eddie
movie?
Murphy. I think Eddie Murphy is fantastic.
Oh, I think this movie is a lot better than 48 Hours for my money.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an excellent movie. It's on Netflix right now. I would recommend anybody to watch it. You know, you probably are just thinking, oh, it's like this 80s period piece, which it is. But it's so fun and interesting and also surprisingly political.
Well, that's the thing. Shane Black really broke out with this movie, and I love the scene with the little kids, the little black kids who have witnessed the person who set the explosive, and they're telling each other, no, don't talk to the cop, man. And you know what my mom said cops do to black kids, black people, and the cops are put on their heels by these little 6-year-olds who they know what time it is.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. I mean, this is 1987, and we're still, it's before the L.A. riots.
Yep.
It's before long before the discussions, the post-Ferguson era. It's way before Rodney King. It's it's a reminder that this happened. Americans don't have a long memory, but it doesn't mean that this stuff hasn't been going on forever.
And he really cuts across the tone of the movie, sets it around Christmas time. So it's Christmas time in L.A., so you've got the Christmas lights and the Christmas music, but it's sunny L.A., so there isn't
any Christmas anything.
Right. And of course,
which is funny.
And it's very droll. And we get that with the woman who dies in the beginning, falling from her balcony. And it's almost a MacGuffin, her story, because you really lose track of her story about who killed her and was she poisoned.
You don't even care.
You don't really care.
You could say that's a mistake, but I don't think it matters.
Well, it doesn't matter because you witness it, because Shane Black shows her committing suicide. And so whether she's snorting coke and she jumps off the balcony.
Yeah.
And that's all you need to know.
Well, because honestly, police work is the background, the case is the background. This is really a character film about the relationship between two guys. One thing that's funny to me is I don't really know how old Danny Glover is compared to Mel Gibson, but they posit Glover as being a lot older.
50. He's 50.
50 friggin' years old.
Which makes me feel ancient. You know how we used to watch movies and you'd always hear people go, "Oh, I'm 40. I'm 50." And you're like, "Yeah, that's so old."
Yeah.
And now I'm pushing 55 and I see Danny Glover whining because he's 50 and I think...
Yeah, he's talking about how he can barely move, like he's an old man.
Yeah, get it together, Putz. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, 50. I mean, what are you talking about? Like, I can move. And how old was Gibson?
All right, so that...
and by the way, I want to know, like, Gibson was most known, maybe, I'm going to say, for Mad Max before this.
At this point? Let's find out. It's an interesting question about when Mel Gibson really broke out in the American market. All right, let's see. How old is Mel Gibson? He was born in 1956 in Peekskill, New York.
Ah.
How do you like that? I thought he was an Aussie all this time.
86. So he was 31 when
87.
When this came out. So, Lethal Weapon. So yeah. So I mean, okay. So he's 31 and
really
Glover
young,
is 50
with the mullet. Well, we haven't divined how old Danny Glover truly was. Born in 1946 in San Francisco, July 22nd.
Okay, so that's interesting. So he was really only 41.
Yeah.
41. So that's a weird thing. It's like in the movies when, like, it's like, oh, this girl's in high school. And you're like, she's 23. Mm-hmm. It's like that. Like, I just thought Danny Glover just didn't look much older than Mel Gibson. Not that older. Like grandpa.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So he's like 15 years older.
He's not like an old looking guy. He's just looks like 41.
And so it's a Stanley Donner movie, and Richard Donner. I don't know why I said Stanley. Richard Donner, who famously made the first Superman with Christopher Reeves.
So did you find that thing about Gibson's prior? What was he best known for prior?
All right, let's look into that. So
I'm going to say he was like coming off of the Mad Max sequels at this point. Right, like Thunderdome.
So Richard Donner has 80 credits to his name.
Wow.
And he did The Omen. That's what I wanted to say.
Oh my God. Which, by the way, is just fantastic.
It's a really...
We should do that
creepy. Yeah, we should. It's a really creepy psychological thriller / horror movie.
Underrated as hell.
So he started doing television in the early 60s. So this guy really knew his way around the block, and after doing the Omen, Superman, then he went on to things like Lady Hawk and The Goonies, Scrooged. He directed Lethal Weapon 2 and Lethal Weapon 3, Maverick, which I think also has Mel Gibson. Conspiracy Theory, is that Mel Gibson too?
Yeah, well, I thought Conspiracy Theory Mel directed himself.
Richard Donner.
By the way, it's easy to forget that Mel Gibson is a truly gifted actor.
Oh, he's great. He's really convincing. And that's the thing about this movie is Shane Black's script, he gives play to the female characters. You've got this classic situation where
the sergeant is a woman.
Where the shrink is trying to, she's giving it to this guy full on, to the police chief, about what a loose screw Mel Gibson's character is. And he has to go and run and hide in the men's room because she's not having it. It's a pretty great scene.
And remember, and just earlier, just a minute ago, the boss, the sergeant was on, and she's a woman.
Uh-huh.
I mean, it's pretty. I mean, by the way, how droll is this? I'd laughed so hard. The men's room has the men's symbol.
The men's symbol.
The circle with the little arrow sticking out at the northeast.
Yeah, you could tell that was added on. Okay, so here we go. You're in answer to your Mel Gibson question. Mad Max and then Gallipoli.
Oh, God. What year is Gallipoli?
81.
That's so weird.
And then The Road Warrior, which is another Mad Max. And then how could you not give play to The Year of Living Dangerously?
Oh, God. Yeah. Such a fantastic.
And then The Bounty. And then The River.
I've never seen The Bounty.
Mrs. Soulful. It's good. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And then Lethal Weapon. So he had a good, fat running start at the American market. Gallipoli was a huge movie.
It was. 81. It was a monster.
It really was.
Although, was that considered an Australian film?
I think it was, yeah.
And I think that was that only played in art houses, I think.
I don't know. I think the soundtrack, the composer, Peter Weir directed it, Aussie, but I think
that was an art
But I
house
think
movie.
It won an Oscar.
I was a freshman in college when that came out. I remember seeing that. It's just excellent.
Yeah, it's a great movie. So yeah, Mel Gibson had complete pick of the.
But he kind of was
litter.
coming out. Most Americans would have known him from Mad Max movies at that point.
Yeah.
So he was just kind of like an action guy.
Of which there had, but I don't know. The Year of Living Dangerously is huge in that movie.
Yeah, that's
true.
82.
That's
true.
a blockbuster.
Yeah. Is that the one that's all in Chinatown?
Sigourney Weaver.
Is that the one that's all in Chinatown?
No.
Or am I thinking of something else?
You're thinking, again, it's an Australian movie, but it got major release.
Yeah, no, it did.
Blockbuster release.
It did.
I think it's all set in Australia. Linda Hunt, of course. And am I wrong about Sigourney Weaver being in that? I was sure. Yeah, she's in it, of course. Yeah. All right. So back to this wonderfully directed movie. There's so many surprises. And it just never lets up. I've seen this movie probably 4 times, and it's so enjoyable because it just keeps happening. It just keeps coming, keeps coming. Every time you think there's going to be a lull, boom.
Yeah, no, and it's not, but it's not. So it's relentless. It's entertaining. You don't want to go to the bathroom, but it's not like a lot of action movies now, where you come out with a headache. Where it's just like too loud. Everything's exploding all the time.
It's about defying stereotypes and defying tropes. I love the suicidal guy.
Yes.
And as we come to know, because Mel Gibson's character is pretending like he's crazy so he can get his bennies. I don't know what is his goal? Does he want to just retire?
He really was crazy though.
Yeah, but then
with grief over his dead wife, who the bad guys in this movie murdered.
Yeah, he's suicidal, but he's in control of his. But he acts crazy because he wants to get I guess he's trying to get the time off. Is that what he's trying to get?
He's just tired of. Yeah, he just wants to be cashiered. That's it.
Yeah.
He's kind of like Klinger in MASH.
Yeah, exactly. So he plays that to the hilt, and especially with the suicide guy, the jumper, the guy who wants to jump, and he handcuffs himself to the guy. It's such a great, unexpected thing. If you've never seen this movie before and you see that scene, it's shocking.
And hilarious.
And really funny.
Yeah, it's true. And he's so charming, I mean, obviously, look, the elephant in the room in this discussion is Mel Gibson's drunken confrontation with a police officer where he went off on an anti-Semitic rant. Right?
Yes.
And look, I'm sorry, I'm partial to the idea that art and reality should be carefully segregated, like apartheid. I mean, just don't. It's kind of like it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter like who he is in his personal life. What matters is the art.
And also in the olden days, back in ye olden yar, you didn't have to edit yourself. I mean, I've seen my parents go off on rants. I've seen a lot of people go off on rants publicly. People lose their shit.
There's no privacy now is the problem.
But you can't lose your shit. Exactly. You can't lose your shit.
You're not allowed complete control.
You're not allowed to lose your shit anymore, anywhere.
No, if you do, you're in deep shit. Like if you're like Morgan Freeman telling a woman that she looks a little too hot, like, oh my God, he's screwed.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's so I want to get to the politics though. I mean, I'm so excited about that. I mean, I'm a political cartoonist. For me, I think, I think about the politics all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, so for me, it's so interesting that like, it's just skipping a little ahead, like Lethal Weapon 2 is about like evil white South African apartheid assholes.
Uh-huh.
And this is about an episode that most Americans are kind of unaware of. By the way, was he in Air America?
Who's that?
Mel Gibson.
Let's find out.
Because this is really funny because the bad guys here are drug runners who are...
Yes, he was.
That's so funny. The bad guys here are former Air America guys. Air America was the CIA front airline used during the Vietnam War to run arms into Laos and Cambodia in order to find it. If you're wondering why Laotians live in Minnesota, the Hmong, it's because of that. They're former Air America allies. Mm-hmm. And the CIA they created an airline called which they called Air America, but really had just other shell names.
Uh-huh.
And they funneled all this stuff in, and it was kind of it's a weird episode in American history. It was the Secret Wars. The United States was authorized by the United Nations to assist South Vietnam in its war against North Vietnam, but it had no legal basis for being in Cambodia or in Laos. But the Pentagon thought that, to some degree, they were correct, that the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong, the Viet Minh, were receiving supplies from via Laos, so that they needed to go into these sort of, I guess you would say, the back theater of the war. And Air America is kind of this dark episode that most people are just not aware of. Even like there are vets who served in Vietnam who never heard hide nor hair of Air America because they didn't see them and they weren't there.
Yeah.
So the bad guys come out of this, and it's just kind of dropped on you. I mean, I just wonder, like, how many Americans watched this in 1987 even knew what the hell they were talking about when they said, "Oh, in Air America, blah 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 blah." Who knew?
Well, that movie also starred Robert Downey Jr., a very young Robert Downey Jr., and it only has a 5.7 aggregate on IMDb.
It's not very good.
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's worth seeing anyway because it's funny, and it's based on this book by the same name that I read, and it's worth it for no other reason than like them landing in Laos in this field where the tigers have learned to hunt together. So they can't stop the plane. They come in, they drop the back the boarding panel of the plane out of the back as they roll down the field and roll the barrels out the back.
Wow.
And the tigers are like running after them trying to climb into the plane.
Oh man.
And apparently it happens sometimes.
Yikes.
So, that's entertainment.
Well, they're tigers. That's what they did.
Right. I mean, you didn't know that tigers ever worked in packs, but, in Laos they did on the plain of jars.
Huh. Interesting. So, all right. So thing that I love about this movie, and I think that is missing from a lot of, I mean, you can't even compare any of this stuff to modern cinema, which is a shame, because I think 2018 would be a perfect time for a black and white cop buddy movie.
Oh, the best. Especially if it had an interesting twist.
Yeah, and it was based on realism. Mm-hmm. It had elements of social realism, which this movie really does have. It does. Absolutely. I mean, what's funny, too, is... memory plays tricks on you. I kind of remembered Danny Glover as being kind of like a weak character, like he was
kind of like the black cop in RoboCop who kind of is victimized.
Yeah.
And then Peter Weller in part is like avenging him.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I think, I kind of felt like, oh, that's kind of like, but that's not Danny Glover's character at all.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's just a by the books guy.
Right.
And so that's the kind of, I mean, I don't know. And you can really see, I mean, the thing is you really feel, I don't know if there's just good actors, but you really feel the on-screen chemistry between these two guys. Like, you feel like they could really be friends.
Well, and also, I love how Shane Black really lays it out there with how Danny Glover's daughter, Rianne, she plays heavily into the plot toward the end of the movie, but she is just this to die for cute, coming of age, and so she's got a crush on Mel Gibson's character, and so you've got that great tension where he's 31, she's 16, pushing 17, and there's that tension in the air, and everybody sees it, everybody's witnessing, everybody's talking, the little kids are making fun of her, the whole bit, and it's not even a question about the age difference or the race difference, it's just a fact. And I love that aspect of the movie, how these are this is the reality of life, this is how people are, and there's no, it's fun because you understand, you understand Glover's position where he's looking sideways at his daughter and at his partner. And
he knows, and Mel Gibson, there's no world in which his character is going to bust a move on the daughter.
Of course not, but of course
he's completely appropriate at all times,
and he's flattered, as he should be.
Right? Yeah.
And the girl's flattered. The 17-year-old girl's flattered too. That whatever, it's all playing out in front of her dad.
Right.
She has witnesses. Like, you see, I'm cute.
Yeah.
I'm really attractive, aren't I?
I mean, what I come away with is seeing how incredibly underutilized Danny Glover has been since this movie. I mean, yeah, he's been in a lot of movies, but he's never had Mel Gibson gave himself like a great role at like directing Apocalypto or something like that. He's made his own glory.
I think Danny Glover, though, is a very interesting actor because he has chosen his roles very carefully over time, and he's worked with really interesting filmmakers. He did the movie with Lars von Trier. What's the one? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No. What's it about?
It's about slavery. Is the setup? I'm going to tell you in one second.
I don't think so.
But he works a lot. He's a very prolific actor, and I think he chooses his roles.
But he's a workaday actor. He's not an actor who really ever gets to shine.
Really, he shines in this great.
Well, I know, but after that, I mean, I keep thinking like there was some like awesome, magnificent role that he never got to do somehow. And now he's real old. I mean, now he really is old. I mean, that guy's 1946, so he's 72 years old.
Anyway, I think Danny Glover is real. He's not concerned with being a star, is what I think.
No, I completely agree.
I think he's very careful about the movies that he makes, and Manderley is the movie that I'm thinking of. It's on Filmstruck. You should check it out.
All right.
It's really worth seeing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyway, so, all right. So, when we got to the end of the movie, we should point out that this is pre-motorcycle accident Gary Busey. If any of our listeners don't know, Gary Busey was once a really handsome and effective actor until he went to his local Harley-Davidson store. And this is why anytime you hear the word motorcycle, it's immediately followed by the word accident. He got his Harley, bought his brand new Harley, and gave it too much gas and ran his head into a pole a block away from the Harley-Davidson.
Oh, Jesus. Is that true?
Yeah, that's what happened.
OMG.
The second that he bought the bike, he crashed it. And no helmet.
Oh.
That's what happened to...
And his face was never the same.
Nor his brain.
Well, there is a young Busey son who was in Starship Troopers, right?
Uh-huh, yeah.
And probably other stuff.
Yeah, and of course, Big Wednesday, Gary Busey's just amazing with Jan Michael Vincent.
Haven't seen it.
Also. Oh, you don't know Big Wednesday?
No.
Oh, my gosh, you got to see Big Wednesday.
Big Wednesday.
Yeah, they're all surfers. And it's about the Vietnam era and these four friends that go surfing.
It's post-accident?
No, pre-accident.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, this is when he was young.
So
did
Gary Busey's career just completely end?
No, he still makes movies and stuff and gets arrested or whatever he does. Gets bad mugshots.
I mean, I was going to say, I don't know if I can take... This is where I know you're not gay, because you described him as a really handsome guy. I mean, he's a weird-looking guy.
No, he was a really handsome guy, though. That's why I brought up Big Wednesday, because he was, when he was young, he wasn't as handsome as Jan Michael Vincent, but who was? And then Jan Michael Vincent just went completely to seed and had to have his leg amputated and died a miserable,
but Gary Busey is the
death.
Is the villain here.
He is the big bad villain. He's the drug lord, and he's a vicious fuck. And to prove it, he lets a guy hold a lighter under his arm and burn his flesh. That's how you know he's.
He orders the guy to do it.
Yeah,
to show that he has complete loyalty and obedience on the part of his minions.
Okay, so I want to tell you something about Danny Glover, because he has something that very few actors of any stripe have in the world, and that is nearly 200 film credits. I mean, it's a big accomplishment to hit 100 movies, and he's at 196.
Whoa.
So,
and what's his most recent effort?
Well, he has all sorts of stuff that's in pre-production and that is announced and that has just been completed.
So he's still a working actor.
He is a very busy man. In 2018, he has 6 credits for 2018, and 2017 he has 7.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah. So busy guy.
All right. Well, great. Good for him.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to the politics. I think about 87. I guess I had just gotten back to San Francisco after living in my van for a year doing an acting scholarship in Salinas. But post Reagan era, you and I were in college at the same time. I remember when Reagan made all of the alterations to the California state college system, and we protested that stuff. And because when I went to San Diego State, if you were a resident, California resident, tuition was dirt cheap. I think it was about $600 a semester, if that, maybe less.
Nominal.
Really, really affordable for anybody who wanted to go to a really great school. And the California state colleges were great.
Well, the system's been completely gutted now. Even if you have all the money in the world, you can't graduate in 4 years anymore because they don't have enough offerings at any UC school to get all your credits.
Not UC, state. Difference between UC and state.
Cal State.
Yeah.
Right. So there's Cal State Northridge and so on.
No, that's different. No. The state school system, like San Diego State University and Long Beach State University or San Jose State University. It was all that system. The UC system
is different.
It was the more prestigious. Mm-hmm. So UC San Diego.
Well, even that's been gutted. Uh-huh. So it's just worse with the other stuff.
And so in this period in '87, that stuff was really taking hold. All the college stuff was, especially in California, and this is a very California movie. There's all the stuff toward the
although aesthetically, I mean, except for the clothes and the hair, I mean, the buildings, the freeways, everything pretty much feels and looks the same as it does now. I mean, in this movie.
I thought I was confused because there's a long sequence that happens towards the end that I could have sworn was filmed in Ventura, but it's Hollywood. And it's funny how the streets look so similar, especially when they're dressed up for Christmas as they are in this movie.
Yes.
Anyway,
and I like the fact that they never comment on that. That's just there.
Yeah. But I did feel like the movie falls prey to too much gunplay in the end.
That's true. That stuff gets kind of boring. It's just like, you know, by the way, Lethal Weapon 2 is even worse in that respect. But
yeah, and so I do really feel like, you know, this gun crisis that we have in the country is as a result of so much of it being shown in movies, Hollywood movies, and of course video games. I mean, you know, now I saw that. Did you see this? There's a video game where you can pretend like you're a school shooter.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's inevitable. I mean, as a guy who once pitched a video game called Boss Hunter, where you were a disgruntled employee, I can't really judge too much. But I mean, it does make us sound old and conservative. But I think which, you know, maybe we're old, but we're not conservative. But I think it's true. There's no doubt that, you know, look, I mean, movies teach us how to kiss. They teach us how to ask people out on dates. They teach us. You know, they taught an earlier generation that smoking was cool.
Yep.
And these movies definitely continue to teach us that driving fast and shooting big guns is cool.
Have you seen First Reformed? I have to ask you that.
No.
You got to see it.
Okay.
You know about it?
No.
This is probably the last night you're going to be able to see it.
First Reformed?
First Reformed. First Reformed is Paul Schrader's movie with Ethan Hawke and Amanda Seyfried. And I think it's the best movie of the 21st century. I really do think that.
Whoa.
Yeah. Big deal movie.
Okay.
But anyway, you're going to miss it because it's going to leave the theaters tonight.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to miss it.
So you'll catch it later.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. Sad.
That's how it is. All right, so this movie's a lot about drugs, and the hub of the story, of the MacGuffin, as it were, is the sale of cocaine in the late 80s, which of course it was still proliferating the country,
and also
heavily
is sort of inadvertently political, because this movie was filmed at the height of the crack cocaine epidemic, the Iran-Contra scandal, the stuff that Gary Webb broke in the San Jose Mercury News and ultimately paid his life for. So, you know, it's true. The country was awash in cocaine at that time, of all varieties. You know, crack for the black people, white powder for the white people. Mm-hmm. I don't know what Latinos used, but anyway, yeah. So it's, yeah. And I mean, I guess if you watch Star Trek, Star Trek, if you, Jesus Christ, if you
have some more of this beer. We haven't talked about the beer. We've talked about the beer.
We should.
Right.
I was just going to say, if you watch Scarface, that's it.
Oh yeah,
you see what the Latinos were using. Anyway,
so I think this is the first time that we've had a Captain Lawrence beer on the podcast. Captain Lawrence Brewing Company Hop Commander IPA, 6.5 ABV. I like Captain Lawrence. I think it's fallen out of favor in the craft beer community, but I got this because it's Christmassy. The bottle looks very Christmassy. It's got the big red truck delivering all the hops. It's pulling. There's a hop. I don't know. It almost looks like it's a hop vine that it's just pulling the hops off of. It's a hop harvesting truck, I say.
Yeah, you know, I'm a graphic artist. If they can call me anytime, and I'd be happy to give them some label advice. But yeah, no, it's a good. The beer's good, you know.
It's from Elmsford, New York,
and yeah, it's a nice. I mean, I'm partial to IPAs. This is the Hop Commander IPA, and it is yummy.
It's good. So that's what we're drinking today. We'll give a shout out to Captain Lawrence on our Twitter. When this podcast goes up sooner than you think. All right, so let's get back to the politics of this movie. I think that the way that the black cop and the white cop established their relationship, and I love this
race
scene.
Never comes up, by the way.
It never comes up,
not once,
and
not even obliquely.
No, and there's
like, what's with you doing that white/black thing? No one does that.
No, and there's no patronizing behavior. Mel Gibson's character is not a fan of Danny Glover's wife's cooking and lets him know.
Yep.
And that's just how it is. But when he gets invited to dinner again, he's gonna come, and this time he's gonna bring the dog. So, it's just everything has this sense of real human interaction, real bonding, and it's a great thing about it. All throughout this movie, the way Danny Glover's character relates to his kids and relates to his wife. Everything is very life affirming between these guys. It's really nice. It's refreshing. It's weird to look at a movie from 1987 and say, "Oh, that's so refreshing."
But it's true. I mean, it's one of those movies that if you're like me, you don't remember it the way that when you watch it again. It's really a different experience than the first time. I think it's a better experience. This is one of those. This movie has aged exceptionally well.
It really has. I've seen, like I said, I think it's the fourth time. I watched it probably 6 months ago. It hasn't even been that long since I watched it. I love the details in Danny Glover's house. They're trying to get they're doing some renovation, but it's obviously been going on for a long time. They're trying to cut a wall through, and they don't comment on it or anything, but it's just a mess, and eventually it'll get done. But it's a policeman's salary, and so things take longer than they should, and that's just the state of the house. Their house ends up getting a lot more damage later on at the hands of Gary Busey.
Gary Busey is not your he's your instant home renovator. Yeah.
But we do have some torture in the movie, and that's really, really gruesome.
Sorry, I'm like coughing here. You have to edit that out. Thank you.
We don't edit. So Gary Busey is a very mean, militarily trained
Air America
asshole.
CIA.
And so that is all brought to bear. Mm-hmm. And Shane Black handles it in a very oblique manner, but it's very clear when you think about the movie that these are United States trained ex-soldiers,
special forces,
who are using their skills with things like torture,
which they acquired in the military,
on civilians.
That's right.
And it's ugly. It's really ugly.
By the way, I don't know if you would make a movie, if anyone would make a movie that had that plot line today, because militarism has become so hard baked into the society. You can't say that, special forces guys are villains, or that that the United States assassinates people or hires and trains torturers, even though it's true.
Yeah.
So,
but it's and like I said, he doesn't put a fine point on it, but it's there. If you look for it, you see it pretty clearly.
Yeah, so it's smart that way. I like the fact that that all of this stuff is baked into an incredibly mainstream action movie. Like the mother of all action movies. So that's cool.
How many sequels did it have? 4?
Well, 3 sequels, yeah. I think there's 4 total, right? I don't know if Mel must be in all of them.
I don't think so.
Is he not in number 4? He must be in number 3.
I'm pretty sure he's in
Somewhat Lethal Weapon.
2 and 3, and then of course I always think of Payback, and Ransom.
Oh yeah,
Ransom, which I talk about on my walking tour because they live up.
It's in Central Park.
Yeah, and they live at 1067 Fifth Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ron Howard directed that movie.
It's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, I think he was. It looks like you're right. It looks like he was in all 4. In fact,
you can't have a Lethal Weapon with it's like doing a Doors album without Jim Morrison. They did that.
But now there would be no concern for any of that if you're going to have.
They don't care.
They don't care. They just plug in anyone. I mean,
they're wrong.
Yeah, especially if you like the superhero movies that I can't even call them movies anymore. They're just long commercials. But
Batman can be anyone. Oh, by the way, I'm going to be Batman in the next Batman movie.
I read an interview with George Clooney, and he said that was a turning point in his career when after he played Batman, he realized what a huge mistake he'd made, and that it really made him rethink his whole career and what kind of movies he wanted to make.
Just that he just felt cheap, or what?
He just didn't want to be part of that world.
He thought it was
stupid and a mistake, a big mistake.
It is stupid. It's stupid for the franchise. I mean, I don't even get how they keep changing 007s. I mean, once or twice, sure, but like nowadays, like
no,
Daniel Craig is like in and then he's gone, and what's his name? The one before Pierce Brosnan. And he's in for half a second.
No, he made a few. I think it's good the way that the 007 franchise is going. At least it's not Tom Cruise. Come on.
Yeah, but I feel like they change him too quickly.
No.
I mean, I like Daniel Craig.
It's hard to make... It takes a few years to make those movies.
Yeah, but just let the same guy make 10 of them.
You can't have a 70-year-old Daniel Craig pretending like he's jumping over cars.
Why not? Sean Connery looked 70 when he was 20.
Well, he had that going for him. That he had that elderly charm.
Yeah, I guess so. I'll never understand why women say they think he's attractive.
Sean Connery, the sauce is too hot. Waitress, the sauce is too hot. I love
all those straw dogs. You know.
That's Dustin Hoffman. What are you talking about?
Oh, is it? Never mind. I'll be quiet now. Should have been Sean Connery.
See him pecking hot.
Sean Connery should have been Dustin Hoffman.
No,
Connery is Hoffman.
You need an American in that role.
I guess so. That's true.
All right. Is there anything else we need to say about Lethal Weapon other than the fact that they go mucking around on Danny Glover's boat?
Well, Mel Gibson's really short, or Danny Glover is super tall, and I'm not sure which is true.
I think it's a combination of both. But now that you brought it up, I do think that Mel Gibson, I think he's probably got an inch on Tom Cruise, but we're going to find out just for the fun of it.
I mean, Mel Gibson is portable, you know.
And what about that mullet? Come on,
it's
looking
amazing.
He's looking very George Clooney this era. George Clooney had the same haircut.
No, that's unfortunate.
Business in the front, party in the back. Mel Gibson 5'10". Only a quarter inch.
Kidding.
Only a quarter inch shorter than me.
Oh my God! So Danny Glover is a giant.
So Danny Glover is very tall, man. We're gonna find out.
He must be 6'6".
No, I'm guessing he's 6'2".
Well, I mean, they don't. The way it's filmed, it doesn't make it look like. It doesn't make it look like he's only 3.5 inches tall.
6'4".
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, that's why. Even though I would have said 6'6". I mean, it's like crazy. The difference looks like crazy.
Yeah, 6'4". Danny Glover is a very tall man.
Yeah.
How tall do you think Joe Pesci is?
It's just funny. I just saw him in something. I saw him in Lethal Weapon 2.
Oh, there you go.
So, I'm going to say he is 5'1".
5'4".
Taller than you'd think.
Yeah.
Definitely not that short.
Only 3 inches shorter than Tom Cruise. 5'7".
But Tom Cruise always gets to act on top of a pile of phone books. It's like how it's done.
Well, there was that whole long spate of short actors. Dustin Hoffman. I don't think Steve McQueen was that tall.
No, he wasn't. No.
I think Steve McQueen was probably 5'9" or something.
Yeah, I would have said 5'9", 5'8". So overall, look, I'm just going to say Lethal Weapon on Netflix. It's fantastic. It's great. Better than you remembered. I say see it.
Oh, absolutely. I would return to this movie again. I've returned to it many times. I think it holds up, and I think that the genius of Shane Black is evidenced as he went on. Have you seen Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
Mm-hmm. Great.
It's awesome.
Great movie. Very fun. Super fun.
Very fun movie. And he really plays with gender roles, and he really plays with breaking and defying social stereotypes. And there's not too many writers out there that do that stuff.
True. Very sly.
He's from Pittsburgh. He's a Pittsburgh guy. So, small town kid made good. You got to love it.
Love it.
Well, thank you, Mr. Rall, for coming on the Grand Bouffe.
Merci, Monsieur Smithey.
And I would remind all of our listeners to please turn off your cell phones when you're walking, driving, riding a bicycle, watching live comedy.
Torturing.
Or watching a movie.
It's very rude when you're torturing.
And if you like Le Grand Bouffe, The Big Feast, and you like listening to it, perhaps you'll just Google Cole Smithey Patreon, and you can support Le Grand Bouffe, as Mr. Rall very generously does.
True.
On a monthly basis. There are rewards for you that you will enjoy immensely, one of which, if you support at the proper tier, includes being a guest on the podcast. Something to think about.
Well worth doing.
Food for thought. Thank you all for listening. Bye for now.